Yo, how's it going? I am not doing so hot today, people. So I don't know how long I'm going to be able to chat, but I'm here. I'm out here. I'm getting buzzed with questions about career arc mostly at the moment. Weirdly, I'm not sure decline is the right word. I keep getting asked, this essentially. Can I make that any bigger? Yeah, okay. So for running backs, this is basically the career arc where you see them peaking between year 2 and 4. And we already know the most common breakout year 4 running back is pretty much year 1 at any level, but the majority of them happen by year 3. Like over 80%. But I'm not sure decline is the right word. That's the question I just got asked. Is it irrespective of age? So running back comes into the league at 21, peaks in year 2, has a couple more good seasons, and then starts to decline. But I'm not sure decline is the right word. There are too many factors at play, right? Are they old? Sure, but, Frank Gore exists, so it's a health issue. And is health going to be related to age? Sure. But not for every individual. And we're talking about such small windows with such small sample sizes of good players. Decline just seems like the wrong word. I don't know. That's where my head's stuck at the moment. You see a decline in production, but I also know from Adam Harmstead's research that second contract running backs don't see an overall decline in their overall production. So if you look at survivor bias, players who are good should be expected to continue to be good. Yeah, that's fair. Gurley's shown a decline, but Gurley's shown a large injury history. That's what I mean. Are his skills dependent on his physicality more than other running backs? I mean, it's really difficult to use the word decline when talking about an age curve. For me, when you have to take into account the individual situation so much. Frank Gore clearly doesn't require a lot of that quick twitch muscle fiber or whatever it is that we lose for his style. And I don't think we really know how a running back's going to age or de-health, as it were, until after it happens. Will Saquon Barkley? I don't know. Christian McCaffrey? I don't know. So decline's an awkward word. I almost feel it's more like team preference. But that's a little unfair. But yeah, essentially, running backs start to decline after their third season, pretty much. That's why it's all sell running back season. The minute they're the productive players that we want, their value is as high as it's ever going to be. You need them to win, but you should sell them exactly when you need them. It's a difficult position to play with value that way, but right now it should be sell Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. But if you had Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey, you're instantly a contender for 2021. So, do you play value or do you play points? It's kind of the same with this decline thing. I think with that wide receivers, when I dig into it a little more, you'll find a survivor bias where Leonard Fournette's still pretty decent, in a good team on a good situation. He's able to do a lot of damage. Not like he was for fantasy early in his career, but is that the nature of his age or his declining skill set? Is that just how the NFL uses running backs? I'm not sure there's a clear separation there. No problem, Jabe. I'm trying, man, but and I don't whine. I try not to whine a lot. I complain a lot. I grouch a lot, but I'm not doing particularly well at the moment. Not that you should or need to care, but just so you know why my energy level is a little bit low. Yeah, that's why. I got a toothache, and I do not handle those things fucking well. And I'm at dangerous levels of Tylenol at this point, like concerning levels of Tylenol usage. Most deadly drug, don't you know? Because it's so easily accessible and people think about it as innocuous. Because it's over the counter. But the amount from, normal, you're fine, to potentially deadly is actually relatively small, and people don't realize it. A doctor we have in the family told me that. That was fun. Why are you scared of James Robinson? You're scared of James Robinson because of draft capital. The NFL can and will wantonly fade running backs based on draft capital. Just we want to draft a guy. It's literally it. Outside of that, there's nothing to fear with James Robinson. And since he's the only running back who hit for a whole season out of the last draft class, he's the most likely to do it. He doesn't compare well to past undrafted free agents or late round ads. And he's cheaper than all of the others who could do it, like JT, like even Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's probably cheaper than Clyde Edwards. Hey, I've got ADP around here. Hang on. I recently dragged ADP so I could do ADP versus points, so we can create these little age curves over here. Well, not age curves, but the higher draft capital you spend. Let me get rid of the names here. All right, that's a little easier to see. So the higher you draft a player, the more points you expect from them, right? And this is a curve kind of describing the expected points per game of players based on how high you draft them. And right now it's just set to running backs, I think. All right. Either way, I don't have 2021 draft capital in here because that would be useless because I don't have 2021 points. Hang on. I'm pretty sure James Robinson is going to be going cheaper than most young running backs who should produce next year. And so I don't see a reason to be afraid of James Robinson. I don't think you're going to be able to sell him as easily as someone like JT. And I think you get more return on someone like Jonathan Thomas. And I think they're both going to have good 2021 seasons. That's the way my mind works on it anyway. Where's ADP around here? Dynasty League Football. Dynasty ADP. There we go. All right. Let me see. Let's go look at running backs. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor's like literally the RB2 in draft capital right now. And James Robinson is RB21. You shouldn't be afraid of James Robinson. But that's why you are. And it's a legitimate concern. I mean, it's a terrible team and terrible situation, and he's got no draft capital. It's a legitimate concern, but I'd much rather be trading for James Robinson than Jonathan Taylor, sorry. Screw. Keep your head up. At least you're not a Jets fan. That's I'm not any team's fan, to be real clear. I'm a hopeful Denzel Mims stan, if that counts. Turn this down because I can't hear anything. And so that kind of puts me on the Jets a little bit. Like if he could hit, that's one hell of a value. But yeah, appreciate it. I'll try and keep my head up. All right. Speaking of this right here, you can't see that at all. This is essentially the formula equivalent of this. You see this orange line? Can you see that at all? Let me. I didn't mean to do that. Okay, there we go. Now I can slide a little bit. All right. So this is a graph I was posted on Twitter the other day, and it's got just running backs in it right now. And this little orange line on it is essentially a trend line. It's a logarithmic trend line. You see the way it curves up at the end because you're expecting exponentially more points for, running anyone you draft in the first round compared to like the 10th round down here. And so I wanted this logarithmic curve. Now, what we can do with that is, stare at it and think about how pretty it is and post it on Twitter like I do. But we can also ask it to spit out a formula right there. Because I can't math myself, obviously, I'm too lazy for that. So I ask it to tell me what the trend line is saying. Because, all equations, especially Sorry. Algebraic equations are actually explanations of graph lines. I'm not sure. I was blown away when I fucking realized that, by the way. For little Pete in a math class, I was like, X and Y, that's why we use X and Y in algebra. It's because it's graphs. And I didn't realize it because I'm not very smart or good at math, but there you go. And so what I did, what you can do is ask it to spit out the graph. So what this is saying is if you do the log or the natural logarithm of X, which in this case is ADP, multiply it by this number and then plus it by this number, that's essentially a mathematical description of this graph line, okay? Says the guy who barely understands what he's talking about. So what I can do is I can create that graph line by position, so expected points by position according to that trend line, and then compare it to what players actually did. And because it's a formula now, I can actually create this little thing. And so what this is the formula equivalent or the table equivalent of where these dots are. And so if you plug that formula in and say the ADP is 50, it'll tell you the crossing point is right here, right there. But this blue line this blue dot is all the way above it. And so by minusing the actual points per game from the expected, which is marked by this little orange line, you can see how far over the draft expectation they actually performed. And then I sort by it, and there you go. And I can also sort by 2020 players. Now, the reason for this essentially is because I want to see, or I want to go looking for yet again, potential indicators for players that might outperform ADP, right? So are there any commonalities to these running backs? And so in 2020, David Montgomery outproduced that graph line expectation harder than any other running back, believe it or not, followed by Dalvin Cook and Antonio Gibson. Now, they're not top 12 running backs or not searching for them that way, but who am I getting more points from than I paid for with my ADP is actually a better way of looking for league winners. It's not just top 12, top 24 running back. It's who did I draft in the 10th round that produced like a third rounder. And that's how your team's infinitely more productive than the guy you're going up against, or girl for that matter, week over week, because they're getting closer to expectation and you want to be over expectation. So the idea it would be to search for any indications that these players were going to outperform their ADP. And we can do the same with wide receiver, tight end, and quarterback, but right now I'm just talking about running backs. So one thing I note about 2020 is the draft expectation. Over here, you've got the top 12, for example, the average draft round was like 6.4, which is incredibly high. In 2020, you basically had to pay for the league winners, whereas 2019, kind of a similar story. If we go to 2019 draft rounds and see the highest expectation beaters, if you were, and look at the top 12, then the average is around 6.4. So the last 2 years, pretty much your league winners have come in the first 6 rounds, although obviously you just saw that Austin Eckler in round 10 could make a strong case for a league winner. But if we go into 2018, the round drops, the average round for these league winners drops to like round 9. And it's the same in 2017. So what I think we've got going on here is, like we were talking about last offseason, the new age of young running backs, right? That we're drafting highly because we're expecting them to produce early, because that's what they tend to do. But with the emergence of James Robinson's, and this is true if we dig back to 2016, 2015, and 2014, the average round drafted of a running back difference maker, I guess I'll call them difference makers, is above that 6th round average of the last 2 years. So we've actually had to pay for our difference makers over the last 2 years more than normal. And so what I expect is that to come back to an average, to regress, if you will, to use one of our least favorite words. So in other words, in 2021, I think we're going to get more league winners outside the top 6 rounds than we have the last 2 seasons. Now, it might not happen, but I'm looking for an edge. And if that were to happen, because it's been 3 rounds higher than average over the last 2 years, at some point that's going to get back down towards the 8-9 round average, I expect. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm not very good at math. But that's one way of looking at 2021 and thinking there is going to be more difference makers later in the draft than there were last year or the year before. And so we can potentially gain an edge over people because our tendency is to think what just happened is what's going to happen. You know, the old Evan Silver meme. Or that's how he memes it. You know, everyone expects what just happened to happen again. And in fact, normally it doesn't. And so if we're taking advantage of that variance, and what I think is we're going to get more difference-making running backs later in the draft than we did the last 2 years. And so while everyone's moving up to draft Jonathan Taylor, because he should be great. This isn't an anti-Jonathan. This isn't an anti-high ADP running backs, because again, if we go back and look at the trend, we should expect the ADP does a pretty good job of actually predicting who's going to score more points. So in other words, what's the correlation here? I forget. It's pretty high. I actually put it in a table here. Yeah, for running backs, ADP for wide receiver and running back is pretty good. The higher you draft a player, the more points per game you get, because we are actually fairly accurate as a market. We're getting like an R squared to points per game of 42%, 40 to 42% for wide receiver and running back. But you can also see there's a lot of variance in that number. So, you know, not all our best points per game producers are coming in the first round, but that's actually a pretty strong signal, as this graph kind of indicates, that, you know, most of the high scorers and the highest scorers are coming in the top 5 picks. That's essentially what it says. So I want those running backs, don't get me wrong, but looking for an edge, I expect, hang on, in 2021, and this is my early expectation. I don't know why I've suddenly started grinding 2020 stats when I'm meant to be doing rookies, but I am. So there we go. I got bored of rookies, I guess. I'm putting it over here so I can draw on it. Like most of our running backs that are difference makers come right here, right? That's the top 5 picks. That's where we want to take them, and that's why everyone wants an early pick to draft running backs, right? But over the last few years, literally the last 2, these guys haven't been turning up. You see, I think this is James Conner, actually, by the way. He's got like the highest value season of any running back. Anyway, and Austin Eckler is over here too. Now, interesting enough, James Robinson isn't on this chart because he was undrafted. We literally didn't draft him, so we can't. He didn't have an ADP, so I can't plot his ADP. But if he was on this chart, he'd be up here. So maybe that's an indication that the players that broke out last year, like James Robinson, that didn't have ADPs, are misguiding me on my expectation for 2021, and that's something I have to dig into further. But, you know, for now, ignoring him. And essentially, all I'm just saying is I think there are going to be more of these players far exceeding their expectation by draft capital, because we haven't seen it over the last 2 years a lot. And we normally see it at least a little bit. Some Austin Eckler kind of action. So that's my early take on 2020. I guess I'd say that in 2020, we're not going to have to see all the difference makers go on average in the first 6 rounds. And it's worth pointing, even last year, like Gibson was a 10th round pick. Naheem Hines was a 13th round pick. Both of those provided exponentially more value, or logarithmically more value, than what we paid for them in draft or in trades on average. Anyway, that's what I've been looking at lately, and what my initial thoughts on 2021 are. I don't know what those words mean. C-plant. Can I make a model to predict next year's log points per game expectation? I don't know what that means. The expectation curve needs sample size, right? So another way of looking at this graph is made out of everyone drafted between 2014 and 2020 according to DLF ADP. So to predict next year's log, that would just be adding one more year to the sample size, and I wouldn't expect it to change that much because, I would actually want a much bigger sample size than 2014 to 2020, but it also keeps it fairly common, and that's all the ADP DLF has for me. So essentially, I wouldn't expect this formula to change much because it's already based on, what is that? 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It's based on 7 years of data. So 1 year of data shouldn't change it exponentially. This is a linear equation, by the way, and this is a log formula, the one that we're actually using. The linear equation is neat, but again, that would create... well, let me show you here. If we ask for a linear function, it does this. Just a straight line is what linear means. But obviously, while it's following the trend, you get more points for early players and late players. We're expecting a lot more points per game for a top 3 pick than a last 3 pick. And so anyway, I did the linear function, but the logarithmic is, I think, a better description, because again, you expect points up here if you're paying that much for a player, right? So you want this. I'm calling it an exponential decline, but I don't know what words mean. Give me a break. I'm a fake nerd, and my teeth hurt. So yeah, essentially, I think the answer to your question is I've done that, and that's what this is. If you're asking me to create a model to predict players outproducing their ADP, then yeah, we could apply that to current ADP. And what that would produce is, what we're expecting for players based on their ADP. But what we're looking for is reasons to believe someone's going to outperform that. But yeah, we can apply it to current ADP. I guess we could do that to see what we're predicting. I tell you what, I guess unless anyone else has got any other interesting questions, I can just start working on that. So this is current ADP. Ow, everything hurts. How does everything hurt when one thing hurts? All right. Okay. I literally copied and pasted that. The magic of all these stats grinders. It's copy and paste, dude. It's not hard. All right, let me take out these things because we don't need them. In fact, if I could just insert it in here, it'd do it for me, wouldn't it? Year, month. So I'm gonna need to reformat that stuff I just copied. If I make this ADP conform to if I fill in all the blanks, and I can just copy and paste it into what I've already got, and then I don't have to rewrite all the formulas. I think that would be a little easier. If that makes sense to you all, then you're smarter than me. Okay, yeah, I need to move those over. I think I figured out what you're asking me. Your question was very good, Mr. Plant. I'm just a moron. Okay, it takes me a while to figure out what you're trying to say, because I'm a moron. Sometimes I'm really not sharp today. I'm just gonna blame everything on tooth pain. Normally, I just have to admit I'm dumb, but it's nice to have an excuse every now and again. All right, so that goes over there. Okay. I don't mean to be quiet, but I'm doing a thing. Get off my back. Let me see. So that second position, all right. I don't even know if I can describe how I messed up that data, but there we go. Everyone know how to extract text from a cell? God knows are boring, right? I want 1, 2. There we go. Let me zoom as if you have any interest in what I'm actually up to here. But I'm making the data conform to this sheet I already have so that I can plug it in. And I can show the expectation. Log is what we're looking for. Player. I want player names over here. PRFID unknown, because I'm not going to do that right now. Oh, I got to move those 3 over a little bit. All right. 2021. 2021. What month is it? March. Just about March. No. If you try to double click to do this with months, then it will try and fill it in as if it's a calendar. So you have to have multiple of the same name so that it knows you don't want to do that. Just in case anyone's wondering what I'm up to there. Okay, so if I just copy and paste this in here, it should work. And then because actually writing this formula is a little bit of a bitch, and I don't want to have to rewrite it. Unfreeze. Crap. I have to remove this. Instead of looking at how far over or under, I just want the expectation, which means I have to remove that. That should do it. There we go. Let me fill in the rest of the table, if you don't mind. Because all these other columns are actually their year stats. And since we're using 2021 ADP, they don't have any 2021 stats. So I'm just going to fill it in with the words unknown. All right. So yeah, I think that formula is essentially already the model you were asking for. All right. That's the other thing. Ah, crap. I've done something wrong. Of course. Where's the position? Oh, there it is. There we go. Okay. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I'm filling in RAM right now. Sorry, I can't see the chat while I'm staring at this thing. So if you're asking me interesting questions, like, I got nothing. Nine, 10, 11, 12. Actually easier to do this and write a formula to count the rounds for myself, if you can believe it. If anyone's riveted by this, you can thank Sea Plant for asking me an interesting question. Actually, thanks for this, because this is like a really good distraction. I haven't felt my pain since I started. So this is awesome. For me, for anyone watching, I'm assuming this is boring as all hell, but what can I do? I'm literally just listing what round that would be if it was a straight up draft. That's all that's going on right now. It's not complicated. Although it probably looks it. I'm using these as benchmarks so I don't have to count. Who counts? Who counts anymore? We got sheets to do that for us. Ah, damn it. Clumsy. Can't be that many rounds. I gotta be getting towards the end of it. I think there are 20 rounds typically in ADP. So that should be this one. Round 21. Remember, this will just show you the ADP's expectation of points per game. It's not going to tell you what they're actually likely, well, kind of what they're likely to score. If ADP is accurate, which as we just saw, it's accurate to about a 42% tick, that's the points per game they'll get, ish. Surely not more than 24 rounds. Oh, yeah, well, we got more than 24. Neat. Oh, we got the start of round 25 in ADP right now. All right. Oh, so after all that crap, let's go to 2021. We don't need to see the month. We know what it is. And there it is. That's the points per game expectation based on their current ADP, in March. So Christian McCaffrey is expected to get 24 points per game. Obviously, he'll produce that if he plays the full season. So again, this is just a formulaic description of this graph. You can see if you're drafted first overall, you're expected to get about 24 points per game. And then when we flick over to Christian McCaffrey being predicted for a 1.3 ADP, he's getting about 24 points per game. So you can at least see how the formula lines up with expectation there. And since we don't have their points per game for next season, we can't compare to it whether it's over or under. If anyone has any questions about that, let me know. Hey, Tanho, how you doing? You can do this much quicker and better than I can. So why am I live streaming? And could you start your stream up so I can go watch you? Nick, means you could mix it up for a bit in redraft leagues. Yeah, it's not that I don't want those early drafted running backs and wide receivers, because there is a significant correlation to ADP being accurate to a 40% tick, but I'm just saying maybe I want to take more shots on those late round guys, and I don't mind trading back as much as 2019 and 2020 suggests that I should. Because again, the last 2 years, the opposite has been happening. You have had to pay for your difference makers, except for David Montgomery and James Robinson. There have been fewer players outperforming their ADP and running back over the last 2 years, and I just think that's going to stop happening quite so much. Oh, my sheet crashed. That's fun. Hey, Burner Dynasty, how you doing? That's a great name. Just right, I saw some info on Evan Ingram trying to value him. Yeah. Hey, I was in a Twitter brawl with a guy about Ingram because, basically we're saying what he's done has been bad the last 2 years. And I was being a little trolly because my teeth hurt right now. And so I'm a little more surly than usual. But he just stopped talking. But I was like, if we're going to say Ingram's been bad, what does that mean if you don't like points per game? And I did find something to be concerned about. That's why I'm mentioning it, because, he didn't have any reason to suspect Ingram's bad now. And I was just saying he's a value where his ADP is, since he has been in the past, he's been good. But look, what I've got here, this little graph, another graph, I'm getting graph obsessed lately, This is touches running along the bottom, so the number of touches a player has had, and then your yards per team attempt, which is actually a per game stat. It's yards per game divided by team attempts per game. So it's adjusted on a game level on both the team and the player. And there's a strong correlation to touches and yards per attempt calculated this way, because obviously it's essentially a volume stat, but we're trying to adjust it a little bit for efficiency and their role. I think that's what it is anyway. And so all the blue dots here, those are every player since at tight end since 2008, I think. Yeah. That's a yards per team attempt measured against their touches running along the bottom. So over here in the top right, you have players getting a lot of touches and being extremely good with them. And in the bottom left, we have players getting not many touches and still being pretty decent with them since they were top 12 tight ends, right? So these orange dots here, these are Evan Ingram's seasons. This is 2019. This is 2018. Obviously, they're not chronological. And over here is 2017. And down here is 2020. Now, he wasn't a top 12 tight end in all of those years. I'm just comparing him to top 12 tight ends. And the one thing I would say is both of these seasons that are below the line in that he was less efficient than you would really want for that number of touches. The more touches he gets, the less well he compares to top 12 players. And that's a little weird. You would expect a good player to be above the line, not just when he gets a limited number of touches, you know? And in fact, 2017, that was his good year. That was his rookie year. That's the year he hit inside the top 5, and yet he was less good with that role than most top 12 tight ends. That's actually a concern. Instead of just, he hasn't scored a lot of points the last 2 years, that's actually something about the way he's performed, which is negative. And so if you don't want Evan Ingram, like, I think that is actually valuable information. Like, I think at his ADP right now, just, whatever. He's been a top 5 tight end. He's young. He's athletic. He's really good, or has been really good, or was really good as a rookie. So I will spend his current draft value. Yeah, sure. I'll take Ingram in like the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th round, whatever it is. I don't care. Versus, moving up to get fucking Jono Smith or whoever's ranked above him right now. I think his value right now is insane. But there is a suggestion here that he is not performing well when he gets extra volume compared to most players in the top 12 at least. And that's a concern. That's actually about something he's done, not the points that I got from him. You know what I mean? And the reason I looked at this specifically is because yards per team attempt is already adjusted per game. So this isn't, he didn't have a lot of touches. He was injured. The team wasn't throwing as much. That's all kind of accounted for when you calculate the stat this way. So, yeah, I mean, I have concerns, but it is value right now. I don't really care. If he does well for a couple games, that's paid off, really. If you autofill down, go to the bottom, then hit copy cells instead of default fill series. Yep. That's a good Excel way too. I was talking about this with John Bosch the other day, actually. So much of what I do in Excel now is muscle memory. Like, that's a better way of doing it, but it would probably be slower for me because my hands just kind of auto do shit these days. But yeah, that's a good suggestion. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can go for left. For some reason, I learned to strip parts, and this formula, CGU, my new friend here with the hockey picture, is putting up, is one way to extract part of what's in a cell into another cell. So the same way that I imported or moved over the position and removed the number. So running back 3 just became running back because I wanted the position listed cleanly. You can type left, you can type right. For some reason, the first time I learned how to do that, I learned it through the mid formula. And it works the same way either way, as long as you include the right starting point. And so left is just a value. I'm just kind of using mid. I don't know. Hiya, Peter. Hey, Tanho. Really appreciate it, dude. Any interest on using your Excel wizardry to do a March Madness bracket? Sure. What's one of those? That sounds like a baseball thing, but a basketball thing. Right, but yeah, you can in Excel if you want. You can also just get a picture and insert the names, I'd imagine. But yeah, we can create that in Excel. Hey, Alex, how you doing, bud? Try doing overall rank divided by 12 point. Yeah. I know a few formulas that can do it. They all suck. What I was actually using originally was a rank formula, and obviously that doesn't work with ADP because you don't have an exact number of players that can count. You divide by anyway. I'm using actual ADP, and it's just easier for me to copy and paste at this point. But yeah, it works. Tan's better at this than me. That's why he's got a formula ready-made for it. I recognize this. Yeah. Hey, Bob, how you doing, bud? All right. Wide receivers, I guess. Unless I get any other questions. Now I used a different graph and therefore formula for each position because that just seems relevant. You expect different points per game for different ADPs for different positions. And so they actually turned out to be remarkably similar, wide receiver to running back, in terms of expectation of points per game, which was neat. But this is a wide receiver formula, and you can see, it's about the same distribution, although there's a much more even curve here between, rounds 2 and 3. You're expecting more points per game than running backs. There's a much steeper drop off of running back, and that conforms to what we think about the position in general anyway, so that fits. What did I notice with wide receivers? Not much, actually. I haven't dug into that a lot. But if I can just remove those who don't have results. All right, sort by best values or best ADP breakers or whatever. Huh. I think, yeah. I made a boo-boo. There we go. All right. Get rid of 2021 now because that's not right. All right. So in 2021, let's see. The average of the top 12 ADP beaters was 12 or round 8. Pretty much round 9, but 2019 average was 10th round. So again, most of the ADP breakers are coming in slightly later for wide receivers, which also conforms to why we want to draft wide receivers a little later in general, because there are more values later on. But the last 2 years, it has been steeply, like in 2018, the average round for an ADP breaker, which again, I guess is a third name for these guys, anyway, was the 7th round. In 2017, it was a 9th round again. Now, 2018 was just weird, I guess. 2016, it was around 12. So, yeah, we're getting a lot of values late with wide receivers is the general lesson here. And I'm not seeing a regressible trend here. Like 2018 was weird. But 2020 was kind of right on the average between 9 and 12. So, yeah, I wouldn't expect a lot of extra values late or anything at the wide receiver position. Cole Beasley was a remarkable value. I know you don't feel like Cole Beasley won you anything in 2020. I feel the same way. But we got a lot of points out of, he was drafted 248th overall on average. And he was getting 6 points above the average of that kind of draft cost in 2020. Like, what was his points per game? Like 13? Yeah. His points per game was about 13, and typically we'd expect about 6, I guess. And so he was, 6 points above the average. So we're actually getting a lot of usable weeks from Beasley for basically a player drafted at the end of the draft. And it's actually kind of if we just looked at Beasley, wouldn't that always be true with Beasley? No, really. 1, 2, 4 out of 5 years, he's provided more value than we paid for him. It's kind of the thing about wide receiver. No one wants to draft just players because they're productive. Everyone wants to go get fancy new fellas. Tight ends, it's just not even. I tell you what, when I see something that's just sad, especially when you're trying to convince people that, young tight ends really aren't worth it. Here's a tight end graph. It's just sad looking. You know what I mean? Like, look at this. Just why draft anyone up here? Nah. Every year you just get every just don't pay for him, guys. Like this Travis Kelce up here, I can almost guarantee you that's Travis Kelce. And then no thank you. Just don't. Like if you were taking the guys down here, for example, like they didn't pay off, most of these guys were on the waiver wire or very cheap. Or you've got these guys down here that were on the waiver wire. Like, even if you miss, you hit. Tight end sucks. Well, in fact, it rocks because it's very predictably we make the same mistakes. But yeah, even if you hit in the top 50 picks, or even let's go better and say you hit on these top 10 players we're drafting in the top 10 or 20, which is this little box I'm coloring in right now. Look at all these players that you got the same amount from for outside the top 100. Like, yeah, we get Travis Kelce. Here he is. Tick. And you see, he's not. I'm almost certain that's Travis Kelce. Where's the data labels for this thing? Did I take him out? Yeah, I did. Let's see. Drafted 29th overall. Can we find that? He's one of these three. 20.9 expected points. There he is. Yeah, it's Travis Kelce in 2020. That's literally who that little blue dot is. Like that's it. That's Kelce. and that's Kelce in 2020 as well. I remind you, he's some of these dots in this box as well, from when he was younger, because he was more valuable when he was younger, So we paid for less right here. I mean, yeah, we could have had any of these dots, but instead we paid for more for this box. Tight end's just sad, man. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get all weird on that one, but like I really thought though, like when I first started writing for DLF, that was my major article. I really thought we could find some extra value at the tight end position, and instead, what I found was the best way to get extra value at the tight end position is just to stop looking. Just take what the draft gives you, because it's almost not at all worth chasing it. Yeah, Beasley definitely is. Beasley, who else? Marvin Jones, you can make a case for. Just players who are always fine. Kenny Stills is probably going to do it again at some point. You can start those guys. Don't want to, but you can. Beasley was exceptionally good in 2020, and in fact last year as well. This is a Josh Allen tweet, I guess. Well, hang on. I got a thing that can literally tell us that. Hang on. When was Beasley drafted? It was round 21. So let's just say everyone outside the top, 10 rounds. At wide receiver. Beasley Brown was in 2020, but that doesn't really count. So was Gibbs. So was Robbie Anderson. Corey Davis was a value this year as well. If we stop with a year organizing, let's see. Steve Smith was at one point. Doug Baldwin, Larry Fitzgerald, Tyler Boyd. That was in his second season, though, I think. Alan Hearns, Devontae Parker. Can we find any still holding on? Michael Gallup, probably going to be a value. John Brown was several times. Yep, there's Marvin Jones. Just they're good, and we used to be excited of them, and then they don't hit as hard as Justin Jefferson, and we become less interested. Jarvis Landry turns up here a lot. And then there's the one-hit wonders like Hunter Renfro's or Ted Ginn's, Harry Douglas. Kiki was technically a value at one point, but now we're pretty far down the list. Pierre Garçon back in 2016. We don't think they're bad. They're just not sexy. There's a lot of those guys. In 2020, it was Beasley and Brown, I guess, at the top of the list. Robbie Anderson as well. I really missed on that one. But I hit on Corey Davis. I'm happy about that. Jamison Crowder was a good one last year as well. I can already hear you saying, well, what about 2021? I don't know. I really haven't dug that far in yet, but let's take a look. Well, Crowder's still there. Slayton's potential. We've seen him be decent, right? He's expected to get 9 points per game based on his current value. It wouldn't take much for him to creep over that line a little bit. And him just to be a solid value. Doesn't win you nothing, but you can take him later and get production. I don't mind that take so much when I look at it that way. Harry is upside there. Marcus Valdes-Scantling, I think I would definitely put him on that kind of list. Who else we got down here? AJ Green. I mean, yeah, sure. AJ Green could outproduce his 7 expected points. I think AJ Green could do that. 7 expected points per game, I should say, probably. Who the hell's Tutu Atwell? I'm just kidding. It's going to take a while before I stop expecting Chatarius to be the name written. Yeah, actually, Slayton's interesting when you look at him that way. I haven't been interested in Slayton until I just saw that, but he's expected to get 9 points per game based on his current ADP. I think if he beat that, then he would be a starter like a Cole Beasley was this year. I don't think it's out the realm of possibility. I think my favorite on this list right now is Marcus Valdes-Scantling, but there you go. Where is Logan Thomas 2020 on the tight end graph? Good question. Let me find him. He probably wasn't drafted, bud. Yeah, I don't think we drafted him. So let's look at it another way. What was his points per game last year? And that's the limit of this particular sample. It's because I'm only looking at players we actually drafted according to DLF ADP. All right, so 2020, he got 11 points per game. Solid for a tight end. Let's check out the graph. So 11 points per game being undrafted puts him around here. I don't know why I'm so bad at drawing on graphs. Yeah, it's about there. This is your fella. He's about there. And the expectation for a guy getting undrafted is around about, I guess baseline is 0, but it's between 0 and 5, and he was getting 11 points per game, so he about doubled it, which again nearly puts him in this random circle I drew, to be fair. If we push him a little bit higher. Thanks for the question, Nick. Appreciate it. T don't matter. Travis Kelce mattered. Travis Kelce matters pretty well. And if we were able to dig past before 2014, you'd see Gronkowski matter. You'd see Graham matter. It's just, we normally have to pay for those guys as well. Actually, that's something I've been meaning to look at here. So if we go to first-year players. How can I do this? I want to see if those young guys really pay off in this fashion. You know, IDs are a pain in the butt, but I'm really glad I started adding them in so I can import different things to look at. Like career year is not part of DLF's thing. I've had to import that from my NFL database, and I can only do it because Addison and Tan in the chat hooked me up with PFR IDs so I could start connecting names through an ID system, and that way I can combine data. I mean, frankly, it's a freaking lifesaver when you just don't want to look at different things because it's a pain in the damn ass. Did I not? Now I've said that. No, there it is. Career year. All right. Smallest ADPs by career year. I mean, Albert O paid off this year a little bit. Is there a single? Chris Herndon as like the tight end 4 drafted. He was a little above expectation that year. Mike Andrews was as well in 2018. Evan Ingram. Yup. Kittle. And he was the tight end 7 drafted in his rookie year. Like, it's not even like the top tight ends, like the guys we spend first round picks on like the guy we consider drafting in the first round, even if they hit or do well in their first year, it's not normally the guys we consider with first round picks, you know. Hunter Henry came pretty close. Really, it's just Evan Ingram. And nope, Gesicki was a big disappointment. All right, moving on. Hawkinson not in his first year. It's the thing, they take 3 years. I don't understand why. If you're drafting a tight end in the first round, is it a value bet or a points bet? Because running back's a points bet. Wide receivers a value bet because you don't expect much in their first year. With tight ends, people seem to try to play it both ways. Like, I'm drafting a tight end in the first round because his value won't shift the next year. That's fine, but essentially you're just burning a roster spot on a guy who's going to be about the same value next year. I mean, why not take a swing at running back and wide receiver? What's the value difference between Noah Fant year 1 and Noah Fant year 2? Is it a second round pick? So I can try and get Chase Claypool, or I can try and get Justin Jefferson. And if it doesn't work out and I end up with JJ Arcega-Whiteside or N'Keal Harry, I can just reset and get Noah Fant for the price of a second. Like, that's a very cheap price for getting to do both, you know? And if it's not a value bet, then you're saying you wouldn't trade me Noah Fant in year 2 for the same price plus a second that you drafted him year 1, which means you're pretty much saying, I'm going to burn this roster spot for 3 years and watch the value burn to the ground, or get the exceptional production of Noah Fant last year. Like, was Noah Fant worth not taking a swing to try and catch Chase Claypool or Justin Jefferson or any of the wide receivers or running backs that we took at the end of the first round instead of early tight ends? Like, I don't understand if it's a production bet, then if you're drafting an early or young tight end, you're essentially just burning all the value in the roster spot to the ground and saying, I don't want to take a swing on a better position that's more valuable. And if it's a points bet or if it's a value bet, then you have to sell year 2 for the same price, unless it's Evan Ingram and then you get a slight value increase. Like, I don't, that value increase, a significant value increase, happens never. So if it's a value bet, it's a bad proposition. And if it's a points bet, then why not just try drafting a wide receiver and spend an extra second to have him on your roster next year, if that player is willing to trade them for that, like getting a second for free, essentially, for carrying them for a year. Like, and if they're not willing to do that, then what are they doing? They're just burning it all to the ground. Like, I'm just going to throw it away. Like, I mean, why not try and do something with that pick? Or anything you have on your team. I don't understand. Essentially, the defense of drafting a tight end early is I won't trade him to you for the same value next year, which is just stubborn. Like, if you're drafting a tight end early, like first round in a rookie draft, you want them to be Evan Ingram, or what are you hoping to get? Like, I'm going to burn that roster spot for 3 straight years and stubbornly refuse to trade them at the same value just in case they're Travis Kelce. Like, I don't understand that, especially when every year, and this is Dynasty ADP, like, we get Will Disley's, I mean, even Tyler Higbee was a little overdrafted, but wasn't that expensive, or Mike Gesicki last year, replaceable tight end value, or Eric Ebron. And like, we can find points at tight end, and no, they're not Travis Kelce points, but like, Travis Kelce's taken. Like, trade for Travis Kelce, I guess. Or you get this box of players, the Darren Wallers, the Mark Andrewses, that were infinitely more expensive, and you didn't have to. Like, you really have to cross this line for them to have returned extra value. And you can do that more easily at running back or wide receiver. Like, look at all those players you're giving up on at running back, so that you can maybe catch this guy, who is actually Travis Kelce, was drafted under these young guys, and like, that's it. That's the one instance. Since 2014, and I know Rob Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham, but like, if I have them on my team, no one wants to pay for them. So, like, it's a points bet, right? But it's a points bet probably in 3 years' time, and their value won't shift much in the meantime. So why not just go pay the extra second for them in their second or third year, even if you have to pay more for them, which you really shouldn't, but if you have to pay an extra second, just do that, and take a swing on getting one of these running backs or wide receivers that provide much, much higher value above anything and are much more important to winning. Like, I want Kyle Pitts is my problem, but essentially I don't know how to ever get him, because he costs way too much early, and what people are telling me is they'll never trade him to me in the meantime. But like, I've acquired Fant and Hawkinson and those other tight ends that take a long time. Like, Fant and Hawkinson broke out last year. I don't think their value is much different. Like, I don't get the early tight end bet. I just don't get it. Sorry, I've ranted, but it really confuses me. I don't know I get just wanting Kyle Pitts. There's a point at which I like Kyle Pitts more than the running backs and wide receivers left. That, I understand that, but that's a player evaluation thing, not an early tight end thing. And maybe that's what it is. But I still know I'm probably going to have to wait, or he's going to Evan Ingram, which means I have to sell him next year, basically. Or just hold him, I guess. Because the chances he's Evan Ingram and it sustains, that's never happened. Sorry, what have I got here? My hockey playing friends. Certain top 10 wide receiver in value based on 2021, based on current ADP. Interestingly enough, Sutton's being drafted a lot higher than I thought. I want him a lot, but let's go look at the 2021 draft value, shall we? All right. ADP for 2021. This is current ADP, and Sutton's being drafted. Yeah. See, his ADP suggests that he's a value because he's been drafted 66th overall as wide receiver 33. And, you know, him versus Cup. I want Cup for the points. I want Sutton for the value. And he's being drafted below Waddle and LaVisca Chenault and DJ Chark. And I want him all over the... So in that way, he's a value. But here's the thing. Talking to people actually trying to trade for him or drafting currently in leagues that are going to start in mock drafts, he's actually being... Like, this isn't true. Essentially, he's being more value than this. Someone was telling me, I think it was Matt Kelly when I was on the show, like he's actually closer up to here. Like it's a choice between Deontay Johnson and Courtland Sutton. And there, I think his value's decent. Like if we bump him up to like wide receiver 20 to 25, like that's good value. That's not great value, right? And so it all depends kind of where he falls to you. If he's falling down here, like DLF thinks he's wide receiver 33 off the board right now. Yes, all day, every day, Courtland Sutton. But obviously your leagues are going to be different than ADP, so, you know, that's what I'm saying. As wide receiver 33, I can't love him. From a value standpoint, because he's young. Yeah. I mean, I love Lockett, Thielen, and Cooper Kupp sitting right here, and Deebo Samuels is a slightly cheaper value as well. But like I'd choose Sutton over all of them for the balance of production and value. He seems a clear standout. But if he's actually being drafted over here, like among the Juju, Allen Robinson, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool tier, then it gets a little harder to call him a great value. DLF thinks he is right now. They think he's wide receiver 33. At wide receiver 33, it'd have to produce over 10 points per game to exceed expectation, by the way. And notice Judy's being drafted higher than him, so he actually has to produce more than that to actually pay off. Like he's wide receiver 26. And that's fine. I like Judy. I think Judy had an underrated rookie season. That's the thing at wide receiver, though, man. Every time I'm looking at this list, I'm like, oh, look, there's Juju. Yeah, I want that guy. Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen. I just want these older guys. Tyler Boyd's in that mix with Courtland Sutton, Cooper Kupp, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett. Moore's like, I just take those guys. I'm good. But in the same range, I get it. The Suttons, the Judys, they have more value, and I think they can be productive. So don't get me wrong. Focus those guys in those tiers, in those ranks, because they have value and potential production. And they're both... Everyone we've mentioned so far is proven enough. They have been good in the NFL. But it's when we get to like these Jalen Waddle bets, that's where you choose Tyler Boyd over Jalen Waddle because Waddle's upside Tyler Boyd's production. But that's me again. Normally I'm actually drafting down here because I've got Gallup, got Landry. Those productive players fall a little bit, like we were talking about before with Darius Slayton. Potentially Donald Mooney. He had a good rookie season. Paris Campbell did not, but there you go. Hey, Pete, Fant is my tight end one. Hang on, let me finish. Stashing OJ Param, don't know him, Trotman and Harrison Bryant. Yeah, I think buying last year's tight ends is a decent strategy for looking for some of that falling fruit value. I always buy last year's tight ends, even though every year I get told you won't be able to buy them next year. I will increase their value. Like, only if you're stubbornly trying to hurt your team will you do that. So, yeah, I think buying last year's tight ends, I think Bryant's a great buy. He's had one of the better rookie season. Don't forget Albert O, too. I mean, put him on your list of players to be interested in if you can get him at a really low value. Yeah, Albert O had a pretty good rookie season, especially considering his situation. I know you like Fant a lot. I'm just saying Albert was pretty decent, especially considering that he was on a committee at tight end, and that's before you get to the rest of the receivers. It's pretty impressive. Again, we still have 2 years probably before we'll know if they're going to break out. So they're a hold, but right now I think they're pretty cheap. And my rant from earlier isn't I don't like Noah Fant. Like Fant and Hawkinson were both the best buys last year, again, because everyone holds them at the same value, even though they get increasingly likely to break out if we think they're good as their career progresses. So yeah, Fant's good. So is Hawkinson. I just end up like those other guys on your list. I'm looking for that falling fruit because so few of these guys are ever going to be Gronkowski, Graham, Kelsey to really make a difference to go up and get them. But if you've already got Fant, I get it. We don't want to take Pitts with 104. I don't get why. I love the player. Don't get me wrong. I have no disagreement. He is clearly the tight end one in this class. I think he can be very good in the NFL. He's very productive. But I don't get drafting a tight end that, in theory, that doesn't make sense to me. But I mean, it's over who, right? And after we see the draft capital, if all those running backs start falling to the second round, I would find it hard. Like, I think there are 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers I'd take over him. Probably. That's guessing at what the draft's going to bring us. So I think, 107, 108, 110, 110. That's where I think the Pitts conversation begins, especially in 1 QB leagues. I don't want to be against Pitts. I think he's great. I think he could do what Evan Ingram did his rookie year, in which case it pays off. But like, that's the only instance that it ever happened. And it's just hard to, like, he's probably going to be the same value this time next year. Maybe you have to plus a second to get him for a first round pick, but what's a second? Do it. And you could use that 104 to take a shot at trying to get this year's Swift or this year's JT or this year's fucking Justin Jefferson. And if you miss, you can get Pitts next year, probably for a first round pick and a second. Like, you get to take that bet, which is more important. And you get Pitts, and the extra price is going to be what, a second, a third next year. But having said that, and that's why I'm banging my head against the wall, the guy who drafts Pitts says he won't trade him to you next year. But as Zach, who just was telling me he has Fant, if it was possible to buy, I think it will be possible to buy Pitts next year. I don't want to sway you off the player evaluation because Pitts is great. It's definitely worth picking. But the positional trends, if they add value at all, it's to tell you most likely he'll be the same value next year. But, every player's the individual situation. I get it. I think that's really high, man. Hey, Nick. Peter, is ADP expected points available to us on the main Google sheet? No, I did just post it in the Discord, though. Because DLF ADP, it's DLS property. They're not really touchy about sharing ADP, so I don't think it's a problem. But I haven't wanted to incorporate it into my database because, 1, I haven't got those IDs perfectly synced up, and 2, I don't know. I got to ask Ryan. Like, I don't want to give away their data if they're not down with that kind of a thing. Because I have their data because I work for them, not because I'm a paying subscriber or anything. I mean, I am, but it just feels kind of touchy. So I don't know about sharing ADP, but I did share this sheet with you. And if you have DLF subscription, you can just copy and paste the Google, the ADP like I just did, and I can give you the formulas and show you how to calculate it. Like, the formulas are right here. I shared all that on Discord, so the sheet's right there. A version of this sheet anyway, and all the formulas are listed and stuff, and I can even show you how to do it. If you want to use ADP from somewhere else, for example, like Fantasy Pros has ranks at least, and there is public ADP available, you can still apply the same formula. Technically, the logarithmic trends should be accurate enough. So you just need a sample of ADP or 2020 ADP. But yeah, I'm not so. I think I answered it. But yeah, I don't really just want to put out a sheet of DLS ADP. I want people to sign up for DLF, man. I don't want to steal their subs. And if you already have one, then again, in my Patreon, for those that are subscribed to DLF, yeah, I've got it there for you. See, here's the thing. I don't want to tell you not to draft Kyle Pitts because I think he's the most likely to be good. And I haven't even looked at the rest of the tight end class. And if he's Evan Ingram, you don't want to miss that boat. You know what I mean? But I literally can't think of another tight end who did it year one. Now, Kyle Pitts isn't all other tight ends. That's a fair opinion, you know. Judging an individual player by the average, that's the fallacy of the average by definition. But, like, 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers are going to break out probably from this class. And burning a 104 pick that you could use to chase them. But hell, I don't know. When you can probably buy Pitts next year for about the same thing. It's like having your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean? Like, I like cake. I like eating cake. So I just want to eat the cake and have the cake. How can you eat cake you don't have? I don't understand that saying. I'm backing away from it. Yeah, this dot right here is Evan Ingram. Right here, this little blue dot. Everyone else is less than 8 points per game in their rookie season. Oh, wait, who's this? This is probably Kittle, right? It's got to be Kittle. Oh, no, that's Hunter Henry. Huh. Look, you could Hunter Henry. And again, that's the other thing. Ingram and Henry both kind of did it. And then they disappeared, like straight away. So if you didn't sell them when they hit, it was just... I don't know about Tyler, man. I mean, if you're by your evaluation, there's seriously no other running back or no other wide receiver you like or want on your team or think is a good bet, sure, get Pitts. But for me, that comes a little later. That point. Where's Kittle then? Kittle is 7.10. He's right here. Kittle and Herndon doing the other 2 hits. And this is kind of why I was throwing in Herndon. He's grouped right here. But Herndon didn't work out. And Fant is another one, to be fair. This other dot right here is Fant. He had a good rookie season too. You know, compared to expectation, Hawkinson is next on the list. Where is he though? Did we draft him a lot higher? Yeah, we drafted him 112 overall. So yeah, he's here. So we paid for what we got, essentially. Fant was a little low drafted, to be fair, that first year. Then that doesn't make sense. Yeah, Hawkinson was taken 94th overall, and Fant was taken 114th. Anyway. And this isn't a great graph, by the way. This is just rookie tight ends, rookie seasons. And obviously, there's not a great deal of expectation placed on them. Again, it's only really Evan Ingram who produced a fantasy-relevant season since 2014 as a rookie tight end. That's the example. And then we have George Kittle as well. But again, I'd urge you to remember that was not the tight end we spent first-round draft capital on. So he doesn't compare well to someone like Pitts, because that's where that conversation is right now. Yeah, Harrison Bryant, by the way, Zach, who was on your list, he had the best rookie season based on points per game expectation. of the 2020 class. Next is Cole Commit, actually, interestingly. But both of them are like getting 4 points per game. So, let's not get too excited about it. No one in Discord? I'm shocked and ashamed of you all. Anyway, that's about all the grinding I've done this week. Because I suck and I've been in pain and I've been trying to put my house back in order. All the excuses, you know what I mean? I actually intend to write up, like, this is something I've been working on. Where is it? I kind of want to write some of this up for DLF. I meant to write up my breakout articles for DLF, like when players break out, but instead I've been doing this. When I'm not doing rookie content. Where is it? Oh, I don't know where I deleted it. I'll tell you what, it's probably still in Discord. Yeah, there it is. Nope. Why not? It's my damn image. Discord's weird. Anyway, yeah, so I've been looking, again, expected points above expected based on ADP. And basically what I'm trying to highlight, without being too biased, is that wide receivers who underperform, but then go on to be great, like the ones I've got in green here, Tyler Boyd, Devontae Adams, Michael Gallup, Chris Godwin, these were good players based on their production from college. Like, and that's all the players who went on to be better than what their rookie season showed us, apart from, maybe Corey Davis down here. Flex. Whereas above the line, all the players who outperformed expectation in their rookie year, who subsequently disappointed, I think they look pretty clearly like those with bad profiles or underproductive profiles from the college level. Now, that's a little biased because I'm just highlighting names I noticed. So if you see anyone, or you were to see anyone that doesn't fit that trend and I'm not highlighting him, it's probably because of my own bias, right? I think Laviska Shenault, for example, and Chase Claypool kind of fit that description, which is where they're dangerous, I think. But anyway, and so I've kind of been looking at that way. That's worth betting on good profiles because they could be one of these very few examples that underperform early. And fair Boyd didn't underperform. He's like right on expectation, which is kind of why he was undervalued. And then they go on to do a lot better. But this is a pretty good, I think, representation of our experience. How we experienced rookie seasons with OBJ being all the way up here and Michael Thomas being great and Justin Jefferson being great and Mike Evans having a good rookie season. And this informs value so much. Like Juju Smith-Schuster is right up here with like most of the best. And yet right now we feel low on him because, again, it dwindled. But, that rookie season, his value shot through the roof, rightly so. Anyway, that's the only other thing I've been looking at. Ugh. I think I'm going to get out of here soon. I'm starting to, what's the word? Fade. Need the toilet? Whichever. All right. Sorry for not being on for as long as usual and stuff. I'm just, I'm weak, to be honest. That's a simple answer. I'm weak. I'm a weak little nerd. and I need to go lie down and cry for a while. It's the truth. Appreciate those of you who showed up. Hey, Bob. Hey, Zach. Hey, hockey fan. I'm just calling you hockey fan because I can't read that. Tanho for a second. And everyone, I really appreciate it. I'm trying to put out as much YouTube content as possible. So, for the first time, realize these live streams are part of that YouTube content. So every Monday, and I know it's Tuesday right now. I know it. And sometimes I have to do Tuesdays because I have to work on Monday nights. It's that simple. But at least Monday or Tuesday every week I do a live stream where we can chat. I keep trying to get other people to come on. Like I'll DM them like, hey, do you want to come chat? But so far only Zach has replied. So if you're interested, let me know and we can come chat live in person on Mondays or Tuesdays, wherever I get the chance. And feel free to keep checking them out. I have another, who's dropping? I just did a review of Michael Carter's rookie profile, just like a first look kind of a thing. And that's what I'm pumping out on YouTube right now. So if you're interested in them, check them out. If not, just flip me the finger and carry on with your day. I would enjoy both just as well. Yeah. So yeah, thanks guys. I'm gonna have to get out of here for a while. I need to go up my Tylenol intake, to be honest. Appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again next week. And in that video that I think's dropping, I think it's going to be uploaded and processed by tomorrow. So keep an eye out for it, I guess. Appreciate you all. Thanks. Bye. Let me see. Do I have an outro? Yeah. I don't know.